Hi there. All right, so from my understanding, you've been talking the majority of the day about integrating your faith with your work and seeing work as ministry and as mission and as an act of discipleship. Well, as most of you are probably business leaders or employed in some capacity, you know there's also the law. So we are immediately faced with this reality that we are citizens of two kingdoms, the kingdom of God and the kingdom of man, and specifically, citizens of the United States. So there are laws as citizens that come into place. That come into play whenever you are trying to live out your faith, right? You don't want to just be some secular drone mindlessly going about the laws of the state, all the while compartmentalizing your faith. So how do the two intersect? There will be times as you try to live out what you've been talking about today where there will be conflicts. And like we see in Acts 16, when Paul is in Philippi trying to get the church up and going there will be times where we need to push back against the state. There will be times where you need to just roll over and submit and go about being wronged or whatever and not voice any objections. But there are times where you need to stand up and assert your rights. And they're not just going to usher you out of the jail quietly. You are a citizen. Now, when those times are, is an act of discernment that you need to seek the Spirit's guidance on. But what Paul did in that instance, it was a unique gospel opportunity. He had to make space for the church to grow and be the church in Philippi. And so as you face times of confrontation between your faith and the law of the state, analyze, is this one of those opportunities? Do I need to take a stand here for the betterment of the kingdom, for the betterment of the church, or is this more about my personal vindication? So that's one of the guiding principles as we seek to think about what the law requires of us and how we can be obedient citizens and good subjects and all of that of both kingdoms. Now, this idea of business as an exercise of religion has gotten news as of late. Most of you are probably aware of the Hobby Lobby opinion. Raise your hand if you've heard of the Hobby Lobby case. Right. Good. Well, that makes my job easier. Obviously, we could talk for a very long time about the Hobby Lobby case, but I just wanted to share one quote from that case because it tracks perfectly with what we're doing here. Now, the majority opinion was written by Justice Alito, and there was this idea that the U.S. government was saying because a for-profit corporation is in the business of making money, it cannot be exercising religion. Only the churches or nonprofits, maybe, can exercise religion. But if you're in the business of making filthy lucre, forget it. Okay, well, Scalia put that to rest. So the exercise of religion involves, Cindy caught. The exercise of religion involves not only belief and profession, but the performance of or abstention from physical acts that are engaged in for religious reasons. Business practices that are compelled or limited by the tenets of a religious doctrine fall comfortably within that definition. Thus, a law that operates so as to make the practice of religious beliefs more expensive in the context of business activities imposes a burden on the exercise of religion. And this fell in the analysis of the Religious Freedom and Restoration Act, which the Hobby Lobby case was about. And we can talk about that more later if you'd like to talk on the side. But it's clear in Supreme Court precedent that it's okay to make money and see it as an exercise of religion. So you're living out your faith through your business corporation. Now, if you work for a publicly traded entity, that's a little different at this point, but if it's a family-owned business, and I suspect most of your businesses are, then you can exercise your religion, you can do discipleship through the corporate form. Now, would anyone object to that out there? Well, we see in the headlines also some of the objections that are raised. Masterpiece Cake Shop, some of you might be familiar with that organization. Just right here in Denver, a bakery where a gentleman was asked to, he's a Christian gentleman by the name of Jack Phillips, was asked to make a wedding cake for a same-sex wedding in another state. And he politely refused, said, I'll make you anything else, but not that. He was quickly sued and has thus far lost. It is on appeal. Another case you might be familiar with is Elaine Photography. It's a New Mexico-based company. Elaine was asked to photograph a same-sex commitment ceremony, and she declined again on the basis of her religious beliefs. She suggested they use someone else. They got someone else for cheaper, but still she was sued and lost. All the way up to the New Mexico Supreme Court where she lost, where one of the concurring opinions said, she's being forced to go against the most basic driving belief of her life, and that's just the cost of citizenship. So again, citizenship within the kingdom of man might ask us to do certain things that are very difficult, and maybe we can't do. And that's the cost of dual citizenship. Now, some of the more practical questions you might have: can I share my faith in the workplace? The so what's of the law that's gone forth at this point. A couple things. As far as the public accommodations law, which Masterpiece Cake Shop and Elaine Photography ran up against, you can't deny someone a service that you're extending to the public for any reason that's considered a protected class, and sexual orientation, as far as those two examples, are what the business owners ran up against. Okay, and the Masterpiece Cake Shop briefing clearly stated Jack Phillips he provides baked goods for homosexuals all the time, but he doesn't provide this type of cake to be used in this type of service for anyone, regardless of their sexual orientation. The administrative law judge said that's a distinction without a difference. They don't buy it. It's not a valid reason. But given our nice Supreme Court opinion, some things you should keep in mind. Go back and revisit your corporate documents. Make sure that in your articles of organization, your bylaws, all of that stuff, if you're claiming you're a missional-driven organization, then make sure that's reflected there. Don't just get some standard form that could work for pagan company XYZ and then come out in litigation that, oh, we're a Christian company, and just look at our documents. Well, it's not going to be there. Think about how you treat your employees. Are there structural applications of discipleship? Are you taking the Sabbath, let's say, for example? Not that you have to, but that would be one overtly objective way that you're saying, hey, we're a Christian company and we're going to run ourselves differently. What are you paying your employees? Your handbooks, make sure you visit your handbooks, your policies, put in your vision statement, all that stuff. So do a full administrative overhaul as you're seeking to live out what you're talking about here. Soup to nuts, make sure it's all covered. I know I'm kind of short on time. Let me just review my notes real quickly, and then I'll pass the mic on to Fred. One other thing, if you're a manager of a company and you're looking to share your faith within your organization, because you carry with you a certain power, because of your role, what you say and how it's read will be somewhat different, or could potentially be different than if you're just an employee, okay? If I have a conversation with my friend in the office next door and I have absolutely no power over their salary or whether I can hire them or fire them, conversations that I have with that person will be viewed differently than if I'm a supervisor. Okay? And tread very carefully if you're having a religious conversation with an employee that you know has had performance issues. And if you see a termination on the horizon, just be aware that that conversation you're having can be skewed in litigation pretty easily. All right, so just be aware of those types of things. But in any event, don't be ashamed of the gospel, or it's the power of salvation, or it's the power of God unto salvation. All right? So thanks for having me, and I'm happy to field questions